Let's talk about mold toxicity. How would someone even know they had it?
One of the areas that the mold affects is the mitochondria. It impacts and influences the mitochondria's ability to be even able to produce energy. So your energy is going to be low. You're just going to feel like, I don't have the same energy I used to have. Black mold is really the one that a lot of people are concerned about. How do we remediate it? What do you do if you have toxicity within your body? How do you treat it? How do you take care of it? And then also, where does it come from?
Mold toxicity seems to be a really big topic these days. I don't know much about it, but it sounds pretty scary.
Yeah, it is scary. Well, I mean, let's imagine, right? It's like all of a sudden you're looking under your sink, or you have a faint smell sometimes, and then you look behind and you notice there's a drip and there's water all in the cupboard underneath your sink, okay? And this water built up over time can cause significant amount of mold, even black mold. Okay? And black mold is really the one that a lot of people are concerned about nowadays. And we'll talk about that today. How do we remediate it? What do you do if you have toxicity within your body? How do you treat it? How do you take care of it? And then also, where does it come from? How does it occur?
Dr. Ron Dummar, I'm Nick, the curious patient and co-host of the Be Well Now podcast. Community Health and Wellness in Heber City, Utah is your clinic. You treat many patients. They come in, they ask about mold toxicity. What is your background? Why would they trust you? The people listening, your patients, what do you bring to the table in terms of helping people solve this issue?
Yeah, Nick, that's a great question. I am a chiropractic physician, Chinese medicine doctor, and I've been working here in functional medicine and nutrition and internal medicine ultimately for 15 to 20 years now. So I have definitely been working with patients who've experienced mold toxicity, GI-related issues. Obviously, as a chiropractic physician, initially I was more heavy towards the physical medicine aspect of things, but I've migrated a lot more towards my specialty, which is internal medicine.
And that involves labs,
blood work, special tests, nutrition plans, programs, specific supplementation, or even infection protocols for bacterial infections, viral infections, fungus, parasitic infections. We do all sorts of those things.
Okay, let's talk about mold toxicity. How would someone even know they had it? Or do they come in saying, I don't feel well, and then you do your sleuth thing and you do tests and you figure it out? Like, how do you even know if you have mold toxicity? Because that's a big one for me. It's like, what if I have it and I don't even know?
Yeah, absolutely. So people really, as far as like symptoms that you could be experiencing, like brain fog, you would definitely be feeling fatigue and tired. And the reason for that is because one of the areas that the mold affects is the mitochondria. It impacts and influences the mitochondria's ability to be even able to produce energy. So your energy is going to be low. You're just going to feel like, I don't have the same energy I used to have. And patients do say that to me when I hear them say, you know what, I'm pushing myself through my day and I get the things done that I need to do. So I'm able to do it, but I just feel like I don't have the same energy that I used to have. And when I hear them say that, I think, it's possible that there's a mold exposure here.
How do you figure out if that's true or not?
So then we can order a mold tox test. Okay, so we will order a mold tox test, and we can do that. And you can have a whole list of different toxicities. Some of the more common ones are things like ochratoxin or gliotoxin. Ochratoxin, you can get a lot of that through food, wine, alcohol, coffee. That's very, very common places to get ochratoxin, mold exposure. Gliotoxin oftentimes comes from the black mold or the household mold exposures. Those mold exposures that are that more commonly experienced are usually in the home, like in a damp place or a leaky pipe. Sometimes even where the room is not ventilated well enough, like in a bathroom or in a shower area. And there's a lot of steam and dampness that just coalesces in that area. But believe it or not, even in damp areas, even the toilet, if there's not enough ventilation in the room where a toilet is, even just flushing the toilet, because there's so much disbursement of fluid when you flush the toilet, that it can cause mold to build up and to grow.
Well, I think it's interesting that allergies could almost mimic or mold symptoms could almost mimic allergies, is what you were saying?
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So mold symptoms, because what happens is essentially your immune system recognizes a pathogen in the body, right? So if you have an exposure to mold, typically, let's say you're out in the yard even. Sometimes this will happen. You can get these exposures this way. They're usually not as serious if you're out in the yard. You can have mulch, right, where you have a pile of mulch and you shovel through it. Maybe you've done this and you peel that in half and there's like this mold. You can see it, fermenting in there. Well, that definitely is mold, and you can breathe that in, and that may elicit some coughing, some sneezing, some itchy eyes, redness. All of that stuff is initiated by the immune system. So those type of responses is what is, at least in part, what you're going to experience. Fatigue is more of like a chronic or longer term exposure to the mold over time, but definitely allergies in the short term is one of the things that you're going to experience. Coughing, rashes, even headaches that you could experience.
So you were saying those are some symptoms. And then again, how could I get mold in my house? I don't want to make people scared, but you were talking about a bathroom with a lot of shower.
Yeah. So
steam?
if there's an area, a bathroom, shower, bathtub, and that area is not well ventilated, right? So you see steam build up really quickly on the mirror, right? It's like, there's a lot of moisture in the air. Moisture in the air is a perfect condition for mold to develop, okay? So if the moisture, not the fact that the moisture is there, but the fact that it stays there, right? So if it's not well ventilated, then we can have the conditions set up to basically develop mold. That's one. Another one really, and the more common one, is where there's a leak, like a leaky roof. Sometimes during the winter here, we have ice dams, and big icicles will form on the edge of homes. And then as it starts to melt, that will move into the home and down a wall. And the homeowner may not even be aware of it. Okay? And so that happens over a period of time. So you have to be really careful if you have anywhere that you can see specifically around the outside of your house that icicles are forming in mass, like really large icicles. You want to check that place specifically to see if there is essentially water getting into the house in that area, because that's an area where if it's causing moisture in the wood that's in the home or on the panels of the wall, what can happen is mold itself, even in the drywall, will start to develop within that, either drywall in the panel that's on the wall, or in the wood itself.
And so how can I prevent this from happening? What can I do?
Well, one other thing is
health conscious. Yeah, go ahead.
And we mentioned this a little bit earlier too, but oftentimes it happens that people will have a burst pipe, or they'll have just a leak, a very slow leak. I remember when I was living in London for a little while, and my roommate pulled his bed. We were rearranging the room, and he pulled his bed away, and he was like, "What? My blanket's all wet." And he had pushed his bed up. Originally, he'd pushed it up right against the heater. And in England, they use water, and they heat up. That's what the heater is. They heat up that water, and that essentially creates heat for the home. Well, he had punctured a hole in that heater, and it was just a constant spray of water, and it was dripping down the wall. So we reported it to the agency, and they came and then they reported to us and showed us. They showed us what it had done, and we got to go to the flat because we were in an upstairs apartment. So we went down to the flat below, and it is like the ceiling is all like falling down, and not like collapsing, but just like parts of the ceiling were falling down. It had been going for a long time. I have no idea how long it had gone for, but lots of damage and obviously lots of mold in that area. But that's a very common way for it to occur, is from those simple leaks. Bathtubs. Young kids love to play in bathtubs. They love to splash the water out of bathtubs. So making sure that you're spilling as little water as possible, or at least cleaning it up as quickly as possible when that does occur, is going to help you to prevent mold from building up and growing. So how to prevent it? Well, some things that I would recommend, I like a product called Remy Halo. And I found this a while ago. I put it into my last home, and we're going to use it and get it into our new home as well. But a REMI halo essentially emits UV light. So it's working with this UV light, and then it also emits hydrogen peroxide particles. So it emits this, and you install it into the HVAC system. So it goes directly in there. So all the air as it's being pushed through is essentially applied to this light, and then also to the hydrogen peroxide particles. Hydrogen peroxide particles will neutralize pathogenic factors, bacteria, mold. Okay. So if you have it coming through the ventilation at all, or if it's even spreading or being spread through the ventilation, this is one way to try to neutralize it. Now, if it's already occurred, you have to address it. The first thing, the number one thing, if you find water, if you find it anywhere in the house, before you even call, right, or at least at the same time as you call, you need to address it. You need to dry it, clear it, stop the leak, do whatever you can to stop the fluid from running and causing more harm and creating more mold. Then what you'll likely have to do is call a remediation company, depending on how serious it is, if you do have the mold. There are professionals who can address that. But REMI Halo is something that you can do in the future to help prevent it, to help prevent the production of mold. And one of the things with mold is that it's these off byproducts that the mold produces. It's not just that the mold itself is there, but it actually produces like spores. So that's what you breathe in. That's how you become potentially toxic or exposed to mold. It's spores. It's how it replicates itself. It creates these spores or seeds, and then you breathe those in. And those are like mycotoxins. Those are what we call mycotoxins, like mold toxins. Okay. And so breathing that in is what ultimately is going to make you feel sick, make you feel allergies, make you feel those symptoms we talked about before.
So what do you do to treat that at your clinic?
Treat the allergies?
Yeah, I got mold exposure. What do I?
Yeah, so
run a test on me, and now you found it, or what?
Yeah, so when we do the test and we find it, we say like, okay, it's ochratoxin or it's gliotoxin, and we can do a variety of treatments for you. There's a variety of herbals that help to clear mold toxicity from the body. One of the things that we like to do specifically, though, as well, is using binders like apple pectin. Is a really good binder. Clay is a really good binder. Charcoal is something that you can use on a regular basis just to make sure, and that's we're helping to clear through the GI a lot of these toxins. Okay, so that when you're exposed to these toxins, those are some things that we will use in our office.
Okay,
for patients.
Well, I imagine that they work. Have you found success with them?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they definitely work. People's energy turns around, right? Their
you hear horror
organ
stories about
systems
people
improve.
who have mold toxicity and they're dealing with it for a year. They're going to all these different physicians and specialists, and they can't shake it, and it messes them up.
Well, part of it is they either haven't addressed it in the home, the exposure. They need to address the exposure. That's why I say the first thing you need to do is remediate the issue. You say, okay, this is what we've determined is the exposure. This is where we're getting it from. Okay, so that needs to be addressed. Then begin your course of treatment and care, right? And you should be utilizing high-dose vitamin C. You should be utilizing glutathione. A lot of these things that support the detoxification pathways of the body. Okay, so if you do these things and a variety of the others that I mentioned with the binders to help clear the toxins out of the body, your body's going to respond. And sometimes you do just need a little more support. So we'll throw herbal in there, or we'll do another formula. And maybe there's a dysfunction with a specific organ system where it's either kidney deficiency or it's liver, maybe it's liver dysfunction, right? So we can focus in on those specific organs as well while we're doing a detoxification system. One of the things I find is people who address when they're trying to do detoxification programs, they often will do it repeatedly. And they're like, I'm just trying to get my body clean. I'm just trying to, and instead of having, kind of like we talked about previously, where you need certain periods of breaks when you're doing certain treatments, you need a period of restoration. When you do a detoxification, it's literally like a purging, an elimination from the body. And you think about that, well, if I'm eliminating things in significant supply, then my body's naturally going to have a deficient type of response. So you need a replenishment. So you need a period of replenishing. You can't just be eliminating, detoxifying all the time. So if you're detoxing for years, you need to give yourself a period of time where you begin the process of tonification, nourishing, and replenishment before you actually initiate another detoxification program. And we often will identify that with patients too. There's a patient just the other day, and she came in and she laid out for me this story, and she'd been to this doctor and that doctor, and she'd been on this detox program and that, and this heavy metal detox and all these elimination programs. And I said, you know what? It sounds to me that you're just depleted. Why don't we just nourish you first? Let's get you built up. Let's support your body, get you to as prime as possible, and then we'll do a detoxification program with you and then re-support you. And at this point, she's doing great. So that can be part of the missing piece of the puzzle, right? Is that we get so focused on eliminating, slashing and burning and killing the actual thing. We get so hyper focused on one little thing that we forget to look at the whole world. We forget to think, oh yeah, there are so many other things going on here that contribute to my overall health, that just focusing in on one thing is not necessarily the answer.
That's a beautiful statement just for the whole health picture, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Hypochlorous acid is another thing you like to use to treat mold. I've never heard of that before. Yeah,
hypochlorous acid is really good. It's a really great tool, and it's interesting. We've learned how to stabilize it now. Companies have worked on this for a while because they've produced it for a long time. They've used it as an industrial cleaner. It's a very, very potent cleaner, but it's also incredibly safe. It's very non-toxic to our bodies. And it's really, really impressive as a cleaner. So hypochlorous acid is actually made by your body. We make it, our immune system makes hypochlorous acid. It's one of the first responders. So we make hydrogen peroxide and hypochlorous acid to respond to pathogenic factors. It's one of the first things that go out there by the immune system. It gobbles them all up, and it's like, okay, we're going to basically just destroy this stuff if we can. Because if we can destroy it and then boom, push it off to the lymphatic system, clear it from the body, number one, we're done. That's great. So it's one of the first responders. So hypochlorous acid, you can actually fog it. We usually use it or introduce it into a home for mold exposure or for mold contamination. We use it in a fogging system. So you can fog the whole house, and it comes out as a very thin fog, but sometimes you can get it in the home so dense that I've stepped into a home and you can almost not see your hand in front of your face because the fog is so thick. But it's actually quite safe to be in that environment as well, right? To be in the fog is what I'm saying. So hypochlorous acid is not going to cause a problem for you, but what it will do is it will break the bacterial wall and it will cause the cell wall of the virus and the pathogen to basically be unwound and broken. So it kills it.
Vitamin C, ozone, what else can I use to help?
Yeah, vitamin C, I usually recommend vitamin C like IV. I like vitamin C IV because you can get a lot higher doses of it. If this is a specific thing that you're working on. Oral vitamin C is great. You'll probably max out at somewhere between, 2.5 to 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. But when you're consuming vitamin C through IV, when you get it through IV, you can actually do a significant amount higher of vitamin C. We usually start people with our high dose vitamin C. We usually start them at 10,000, and then we'll do 25,000. And then sometimes with certain patients, we've gone up to 50,000 and even 75,000 of vitamin C. So 70,000 milligrams of vitamin C is pretty high. But you can actually introduce that because you're bypassing the gut. If you consume it, it reaches a saturation in the gut, in the GI. And once you reach saturation, the body will just evacuate it. It'll just clear it all out. So you'll have diarrhea. Okay. But if you go directly in the vein, it allows vitamin C to work throughout the body without having to be introduced to the gut and the GI. So there's no saturation point. At that point, really what we look at when we're doing IV vitamin C is we're looking more at how is the body interacting with the vitamin C as far as glucose because vitamin C is a really similar molecule to glucose. So sometimes it can actually throw, in certain patients, it can throw the glucose numbers off. So we have to really be careful about evaluating that. There is a condition that we'll check for as well. If you're going to do high dose vitamin C, we'll make sure that you get what is called a G6PD, because that can tell us whether or not you should be using high dose vitamin C.
What else?
I think that we've covered the large majority of it here, Nick. I don't know that we...
I don't want to have mold toxicity, but I do know that
we talked about mitochondrial.
I want to have someone in my corner if I do, like you. And so it's like, it's hard to prescribe a one size fits all. It's better to go to a trusted health provider and say, hey, I think I have some issues. Can you help me walk through them? And then if they think they have mold toxicity, would they reach out to you, or should they just go on ChatGPT and then like buy a supplement online? Like, what do you recommend folks do?
Yeah,
high dose vitamin C. That sounds good.
You cued me right up there to say, oh yes, definitely use ChatGPT for all medical advice. Huh? That is obviously not what I'm recommending, and that was a joke. So mitochondria, though, is one thing that we mentioned this before earlier in this podcast, but it's one thing that mold affects. And it's one of the reasons that you get the longer term symptoms of fatigue and depletion of some nutrients, but just really, really low energy and even cellular activity. The mitochondria is so important for proper cell function. There's the cytoplasm, which is basically the space within the cell, and then there's mitochondria, which is essentially the energy producer for the cell. And if we begin to impact or interfere with the mitochondrial function, our energy is going to be depleted, but also the energy for the cell itself to be able to eliminate and detoxify itself and eliminate nutrients or heavy metals or chemicals that it necessarily doesn't need. And so we have to really pay attention to the mitochondria. And the way that we address the mitochondria is, we do it in a variety of ways. But one of them specifically is we use high-dose vitamin C. We use glutathione. We use a lot of really strong antioxidant properties. And then also I like to really use anti-inflammatory diet. And a paleo, I have what is called a modified paleo and autoimmune diet. It's one that I made specifically based on some of those principles, but it encourages quality fats, encourages the use of cultured vegetables. It encourages the use of seeds like sprouts, which are super, super good and beneficial for the body. And obviously it allows for the consumption of meat, quality, well-sourced meats. And so those type of anti-inflammatory diets where you basically eliminate ultra-processed foods, ultra-processed cookies, cakes, candies, breads, pastas, things like that. That alone is going to turn around, I would say, the majority of your symptoms. But again, if you do all those things and you still have all those symptoms, it's likely that there's mold toxicity. And then we can do a test. We can test to see, is that really what's affecting you or impacting you? And then we can begin to get deeper and maybe use certain things that could push the needle a little deeper.
Okay. So how can they reach out to your office if they think they have mold toxicity and they'd like to maybe get some of your treatment? So if you're
concerned about mold, we do have people that we can refer you to as far as for home testing to say, hey, is it in my home? That's probably the first place to start. We also have people that we can refer you to for remediation who do a really good job with remediating it.
Locally in the kind of the Heber or Midway,
in our area,
Utah
for sure.
Area. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so if that's something that you're concerned about or interested in, certainly reach out to our office at 435-657-3696. Texting is probably the easiest way to do that. Sometimes we get a little bit, so the phone rings a lot, let's put it that way. And so the girls are really busy. They do a fantastic job. And I think they're the most pleasant team there is.
They are. I just try to text because I feel like it's always easier than
it's easier because they can get back to it, and you know that you actually got the message in, right?
Right. And if there's like someone in the lobby, I don't need to interrupt that. Just the text message you'll get. It's always a prompt response, and y'all do a great job here. So
thank you.
Community Health and Wealth.
Community Health and Wealth.
If you don't have your health, what do you have?
If you don't have wealth, yeah.
Health is wealth.
If you don't have your health, you will spend all your wealth.
And what else do you have if you don't have your health?
Nothing. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I feel like that was a good podcast. Kind of niche, but hopefully gives people a good place to start. I want to give people all the answers, but I've learned in health that
it's very specific. It's individual.
Yeah, it absolutely is. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and subscribe to this podcast if you could. Leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening, and namaste.
Namaste.